That was pretty fancy.
Thank you.
All right, we are back with a brand new episode of How Did We Get Here, and we are doing another interview with the Kickstarter that's up right now. We're going to go ahead and let Mr. Frank Martin introduce himself, kind of, give himself an elevator pitch and all that. Like, how you doing this fine Tuesday, Mr. Frank Martin?
I'm tired. I had a race to get here, cooking my kids dinner, feeding the animals, taking the garbage out, make sure everything is done so I'm not distracted. But anyway, my name is Frank Martin. I'm an author, comic writer. Currently, I have a project on Kickstarter called Grim Space, it's a mashup of fairy tales and science fiction. So it's kind of like imagine if fairy tales were given like a Star Wars twist. I've done Pinocchio, I've done Jack and the Beanstalk, and now I'm doing a lesser known tale called The Golden Bird. But instead of a one shot, this is a full length kind of 60-page graphic novel. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. And that's kind of neat because I was looking at this and like you said, I do not know The Golden Bird. So like, can you kind of tell everybody what this actual fairy tale is going to be and how you're kind of changing it up, if you don't mind?
Sure. So these aren't they're standalone stories, but they're all in a connected universe. So the first one was Jack and the Beanstalk. The way the Jack and Beanstalk worked was instead of him trading a cow for the magic beans, he trades a P1 Nokia robot, which eventually had a spin-off into his own series. But the Golden Bird, or the Golden Flying Thingie is the Grim Space version, is a direct continuation of the Jack and the Beanstalk one. So at the end of the Jack and Beanstalk, Jack gets his golden egg, and it cracks at the end of that issue. And then this one pretty much picks up where that one left off, where the thing that comes out of the golden egg is a golden flying alien. So I chose the Golden Bird because it was the only fairy tale that kind of fit what would come out of it. I looked and I couldn't really find anything else. But the basic premise is that a king has a gold tree full of golden apples, and this golden bird comes and eats them. And he realizes that the golden bird is worth a lot. So he wants to replace his golden apples with the golden bird. He sends some people out to go get it. And that's pretty much the story that we're adapting.
Right on.
Cool. So your Kickstarter has, Johnny A's dropped the link for the Kickstarter in the descriptions. And I think you dropped it in the chats as well. You have 17 days left to your campaign. And you're about right around 70% funded. So, people still have 2 weeks. So get out there, give Frank a hand, and help him back this book, man. I read the two other chapters. Like you said, the Jack and the Beanstalk, you sent us some copies for that to get us up to speed on what's going on. And I didn't know what it was because you're dealing with Johnny for the episode. So he's like, yeah, I got Frank's books. I'll send them to you. I was like, all right, cool. Then I just saw the title, like, Grim Space or whatever when I opened it, and I didn't make the connection right away. Then I started reading it without, like, completely blunt. I'm like, wait a minute, I get it now. It took me like a few pages in, but so you adapt all like the grim fairy tales, but put that like the sci-fi spin on it, and I was like, well, that's pretty fun, like. And the way you wrote like the Pinocchio one, you wrote it like kind of like
P1 Nokia.
P1 dash, like Star Wars, like robots where they have the hyphenated with the numbers and the letters. So that was pretty cool. I thought that was fun. Yeah.
Thank you. I wanted to call him a droid, but it turns out a droid is specifically Star Wars. I didn't really know that. That was weird because I grew up surrounded by Star Wars and they just called everything droid. So I thought a droid was just, I don't know, short for a robot or just like something else. But when somebody pointed that out to me, I had to start calling him a robot instead of a droid.
It is short for Android, and I don't think he owns the term Android, but like I guess the shortened version, that's still iffy. You know what I mean?
That's what I thought too. But when I started using it, people were like, "No, it's only a droid if it's Star Wars." And I'm like, "Okay, whatever."
I think that's bunk. I don't believe that. You know what I mean? To tell you the truth, that's like saying that like you can't call anything a Borg because it's not Star Trek. Because like cyborgs existed a long time before Star Trek had them. You know what I mean? Like androids existed a long time before George Lucas.
Well, you know what? Isn't an android like a cyborg? Isn't an android have some human qualities to it?
An android is a synthetic human being. It's actually like almost like lifelike, but like it's all man-made and stuff. A cyborg is a human just with robot parts, and a robot's an automaton.
So what does George Lucas know? He doesn't know anything.
Well, he doesn't even know what an android is because his androids are basically robot automatons. You know what I mean? Like
they were just straight up robots, and he co-opted the term. And we just went along with it.
Straight up.
Basically, just garbage cans painted with wheels on them.
Pretty much. But you know what? The credit of a lot of the Star Wars creators that came after him, they created some great droids.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many great ones in I don't know all their names, but Rogue One had a great droid.
K2, right?
Yeah, he was great. I wanted to see him show up in the Andor show. I'm waiting for that. But also in the comics, they created like an evil C-3PO R2D2 combo, triple zero, and
Dr. Off-Road's droids, right?
Yeah, they were awesome. You know, they were so sadistic and devious and ruthless.
Talking about how to cut people up and stuff.
Yeah, he's like C-3PO, except he enjoys torturing people. You know, so they've created a lot of great droids over the years, and P1 Nokia I felt was a lot of fun to do because he's like this honest robot, and he wants to be a boy, and instead of a puppet, he's a robot, and he goes on an adventure, and it was a fun tale to bring to life. And I knew that when I was doing Jack and the Beanstalk that this universe had a lot of potential, so I called them story threads that I could pull on, like P1 Nokia. The character Zeke is going to be my big bad wolf character going forward. Stilts is in there, and he's my Rumpelstiltskin character. So even though I didn't explore these in the Jack and the Beanstalk one, I dropped little breadcrumbs, no pun intended, that I can then pick up and run with later on.
And I gotta say, you picked some great artists to work with. On the Jack and the Beanstalk one, you got Dan Scalise. Scalise?
Yeah, he's my artist for the Golden Flying Thingie too. So yeah, he's like my main Grim Space artist, and we've been developing these characters together. He's a lot of fun to work with, and I'm very fortunate to have him so committed to the project.
Yeah, does some great work, and I loved your artist for the Pinocchio book as well, which is Ramiro
Borrallo.
Yeah. So he does some great work on that one too. A little bit of a different vibe, but it has more of, I think, that fairy tale aesthetic to it. The other one has more of like that hard sci-fi action, and the Pinocchio one definitely has more of that fantastical kind of style to it. I found.
I'm trying to kind of thread that needle between fantasy and science fiction, which sometimes Star Wars tries to do, but it really doesn't lean so far into the fantasy, the fairy tale aspect of this. In this one, I'm going a little harder, you know, just to back and forth. Yeah. So I have a king, you know, he's got a court, and it takes place in this story at least takes place in a forest. So it's got a lot more fantasy elements. And I do cheat because Pinocchio is technically not a grim fairy tale. So I'm pulling from all sorts of public domain.
But just the easy contrast I find between the two is like Dan, if you look at like the spaceships he draws, they're like streamlined, like almost like someone designing a car, right? They look almost like technical drawings. And then you go and see Ramiro, and he's got like that more fantastical, like the ships almost like they have sails on them, like almost like a Tim Burton-esque kind of design to his elements, where they're more fun, more playful. Yeah, so you see that you see it just in the like ship designs from the two artists, like the difference. Yeah.
In the beginning, when I started this universe, I was like, this is Star Wars. It needs to be kind of like sci-fi, punkish, grungish. And as I develop the series more and I have more characters and work with more artists, I'm a lot more loose with what elements of science fiction that I'm going to be playing with. So for instance, I just released a free comic book day kind of Steamboat Willie Grim Space short. I called it Spaceship Willie. And the artist I brought on board for that, I told him, this is Star Wars. And he goes, I'm more like a kind of 60s retro atomic age sci-fi. And I was like, if that's what you want to do, run with it. So if he wanted to do that kind of vibe, that's fine too. I'm going to do a Star Trek kind of ish story. So
Mhm.
that's going to have more of a Star Trek vibe. And as I expand the line, I'm going to touch upon all different forms of science fiction to play around with. I don't really want to play hard and fast with it because, well, I don't have to. You know,
But
you got to do what I want.
but I don't, and like it's not like the change in style is jarring because it's a completely separate story that has a loose connection, but it's not a like your next campaign, the Golden Flying Thingie.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a continuation of the Beanstalk, so you went with the same artist, so that won't be jarring for people. You have the same style, so it'll have the same tone. Whereas, let's say, like you said, the one shot that you gave for the free comic book day and stuff, it's cool that you get these different styles because it adds a little variety, and you can play with it a little more without people being like, okay, they got used to Dan, then you change the artist and they're like, oh, I don't know if I dig this as much, or because they got used to starting the story with one artist that gives a certain tone and vibe. So I like the fact that it changed up.
I'm taking a big page out of the MCU's playbook in that it's not like a straight series of sequels. You know, each project is its own thing, even though they're all in the same universe. So I remember when the first Avengers movie came out, they were like, how is Iron Man, a science fiction movie, going to interact with Thor, a fantasy movie? And they were just like, they just are. You know, that's just the way it's going to be. And I'm taking that approach to a lot of these characters and storylines. So next year I'm doing 6 Grimspace titles, all different characters. They're all kind of separate standalone projects, but the 6th one at the end is going to be my Avengers, where a lot of these characters like Pinocchio and Jack, they're going to come back together for a big crossover. So I'm having fun having all of these guys separate, doing their own different things, and then having them come together in this shared universe.
Cool.
Okay, so eventually, it's gonna move from just being retellings of fairy tales to like your own lore, kind of in the near future.
It's kind of the same thing at the same time.
Well,
you
no, I
know?
get that. Like, I mean, because your version of Pinocchio, it's a lot more lighthearted, and it cut a lot of the fat out. Like, you didn't have to. You kind of like, I like the way you kind of combined a bunch of characters to make them into one character. Like the Blue Fairy is basically the same person as what's Stromboli. You know what I mean? And what was Handsome Jack? They're kind of all the same. And I thought that was cool that you composited it and kind of cut it all down.
I want to do something that's familiar to people, but at the same time, something that's new, you know, a twist, something different. Having the Blue Fairy, spoiler alert, as you just said, is the villain of the story. That's something new and that's something different, but people can still recognize, you know, the blueprint of Pinocchio within there. Yeah. And I'm having a lot of fun doing that. Like, for instance, after this one, the next one that launches in January is going to be Three Little Pigs. But instead of just a straight adaptation of the Three Little Pigs story, it's essentially a sequel to it. So it takes place afterwards, after the big bad wolf couldn't knock down the brick house. And then he revisits the planet where it happened and kind of it picks up where the story left off. So, yeah, I want to use all of these stories as a jumping off point for my own universe with my own characters. And it's kind of cool. It's kind of like taking all of these ingredients that people like and they recognize and making a completely different dish out of them, you know?
Yeah, and well, I mean, and also the way you did the giant in the Jack and the Nam system, like playing in space, it gives you a really neat way to kind of take these literal ideas and like actually make them literal without kind of making them silly. You know what I mean? So you're like, you had the giant ship, and then like and the way you play all of that into it, I thought was pretty fun, pretty good way to use what you were working with. You know what I mean? You got. You saw the potential of what you were trying to play with, and you went all the way for it. And
Thank you. With this series, I'm not just taking, you know, homages and references from the fairy tales. I'm also just doing it for science fiction in general. You know, as you said with the giant, it's a direct kind of reference for aliens. You know, it's the same scene where you have this giant alien that's asleep or dead, surrounded by all of these eggs. It's the same thing, and I want to touch upon that science fiction nostalgia. Somebody pointed this out to me, and they were dead on in the Pinocchio story when the space whale, when he comes out. I took a screenshot of Empire Strikes Back when the worm comes out of the asteroid. I put that straight screenshot into the script, and had him draw it exactly the same. And I did that for a reason, because I want to touch upon all these familiar notes that people who love science fiction are going to be able to recognize.
Yeah, and you nailed it, because like Johnny says, when he walks into the room with all the golden eggs, boom, instantly you're thinking aliens, right? And then when they're in the Pinocchio one, when they're going through the asteroid field and the monster shows up, and that first scene where he makes his appearance, you're like, oh fuck, so that's Star Wars, you know? So you nailed it. Like, I mean, people are instantly going to see these panels as like, and remember these scenes from the movies. So yeah, so and it's a great way. Like, that was a nice touch too. The whale, because they're such similar creatures, right? Aesthetically, that it worked perfectly in the Pinocchio one. You know?
It's
So,
that's the most fun of these stories. You know, it's in the conceptual stages when you just have like raw ideas and you're trying to mash them together and seeing how they fit like a puzzle. And it's a lot of fun because I'm essentially playing Kevin Feige with my own MCU. You know, I got all these characters, and seeing how this character can show up in this story as a cameo and drop a little story, a B plot that can then continue down in another one. So putting all of this together is a great puzzle. It's a lot of fun.
and it's fun too, because it creates not expectations, but an anticipation, right? Because now when people know what the concept is, it's like the Grimm fairy tales sci-fi. So you're like, okay, what angle are you going to take for this one? Like, you know, like, and then people are going to be looking for these little cues, like these little Easter eggs that what sci-fi movie or what sci-fi, whatever it is you're referencing, what they're looking for the references in the panels and trying to pick up all the little hints everywhere. So it makes the read a lot more fun that way, you know?
I'll drop a little hint at something. So I was mentioning Star Trek. What I'm going to be doing is I'm doing a Peter Pan story. It's focused on Captain Hook. But Captain Hook is going to be the Star Trek model. So his ship, the Jolly Roger, is going to be like an Enterprise ship. He's going to be on the captain's seat. Like it's definitely going to be a Star Trek homage. So just doing things like that. Like, where can I fit a Star Trek reference into the story?
Yeah.
So I it's definitely cool to be able to play around with this stuff.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it.
Stargate and Aladdin crossover.
Ooh, that's a good one. Maybe. So next on the campaign page, again referencing the MCU, I made a little timeline of all the
breakdown.
Of all the. I wanted to show people that this is not just one graphic novel. You know, it's part of a larger universe that I have planned, that's in production, that's coming out next year, and it's just the start. So even though the Golden Bird is not as well known, next year, Three Little Pigs, Cinderella, Monkey King, Peter Pan, Wizard of Oz. So it's all big names that people are going to be able to recognize. So I'm really looking forward to how it's all going to play out.
Yeah, I saw that. I like that you put that there with the little planets, with the timeline going down.
I'm not a designer. I am very terrible, and I was kind of proud of myself when I was done with that. I was like, "Well, this looks fun. This looks cool." So, it got me excited, and I hope it gets other people excited too. The last one in 2026, Stilts is my name. That's going to be my Rumpelstiltskin story, and I have others beyond that I'm constantly coming up with. I just last night I wanted to do like a Grim Space themed beer or something, a sponsored drink that I could use for the campaign. And I'm like, I can't just throw this anywhere. And then boom, it just hit me. I'm going to do a Johnny Appleseed Grim Space story just so I could have a Grim Space hard cider. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know how it's going to work, but somewhere, somehow it's going to come out.
That's cool. Yeah. Merch, man. That's
what it's all about.
Yeah. Well, you got to make it helps fill in like the gaps maybe financially. If you get a good concept and it sells well, then it's like, man, it's just an extra revenue source, right? To get stuff.
I've done, I don't know, over 20 campaigns, but I bounce around a lot. I have writer ADD, so I'm doing a lot of one shots, a lot of quick stories. I've never been able to build that momentum around characters that merchandise makes sense. But for Grim Space, it fits perfectly. Pinocchio is such a cool character. I would love to do like a little minifig or a little Lego thing or a plushie. So he's a cool cat,
Yeah, I've seen some of those little Legos. You can get like custom Lego
Yeah.
Characters. Yeah, I've seen those. Those are cool.
So there's tons of possibilities to play around with, especially a series that's fun. You know, it's not too dark. It's not foreboding or serious or mature with a whole bunch of naked people running around. It's goofy fairy tales and Star Wars. So
it's kind of cool that you're doing pretty good on Kickstarter, despite like the I guess from what our last guest said, that those naked days are over for Kickstarter, but
who knows? You know, I'm trying to stay in my lane and not get distracted from what's going on.
Hard though.
I'm sorry.
Do you find it hard, like to compete with the the kind of not safe for work books that are usually on there?
A little bit. I mean, it's a different thing. I have to think that somebody that appeals to those books, that buys all the covers, is not the same person that's going to be interested in my intricate MCU inspired storyline. But at the same time, they do suck up a lot of oxygen out of them, you know?
And it's not just that. It's not just a not safe for work books. Some normal books have a not safe for work just variant cover that is just a sexy cover, and the book's not a sexy book, right? And it's like Johnny, like that's what I was gonna say. Like, it's hard not to fall into that temptation of just doing that one not safe for work cover just to garner that extra little bit of attention that might help because so many other people are doing it. But I find it such a cop out, and it shows that maybe you don't have faith in the quality of your book too when you do that.
This is how smart I am. I did a sex comedy book called Sex Night about a couple trying to have sex and failing with no nudity in it. It's just I purposely took the nudity out of it because I wanted to be about this couple trying to spark their relationship, and I felt like if it was erotica and they were naked and I had boobs and stuff flying around, it would detract from that message that I was trying to convey. So could it have done better on Kickstarter? Yeah, but it's not my bag. So I kind of did something else.
So, what kind of brought you to doing Grimspace, since you were kind of doing like one shots? Like, what were your other books kind of?
Grimspace was originally just a one shot too. It was the Jack and the Nav unit was a story that I developed with Dan. We were going to kickstart it, and that was kind of be it. Even though I planted all of these seeds to continue it, I don't know. I just didn't have plans immediately to do it. I was fortunate enough that Scout Comics loved it, and they wanted to put out that one shot, and they were the ones who said, "Look, do you want to do more?" And that was kind of the kick in the butt that I needed to be like, "Yeah, I really do want to do more." So I did P1 Nokia with them, and I used that as an excuse to kind of just take off and build a huge universe out of it. So yeah, it was always a one shot, but thanks to Scout's encouragement, I was able to get the motivation to keep it going.
That's cool. Despite their kind of perceived bad look that they, I guess, like everybody that I kind of know, and I know a couple of people that have personally worked with them, they all have nice things to say. So like I find that that's kind of interesting. Like the kind of, but like it's deserved. I think that they are a good label.
It's expectations. When you enter into an agreement, it's about what you want to get out of the relationship, and a lot of times people want to get something that they're not giving. And so that's where the tension forms. When I've been kicked around, every creator or author or somebody that works with these companies, I feel like you need one situation where you get screwed over. I've been doing this a while. I've had a bunch of them, so I don't enter these situations with rose-colored glasses. I understand what I'm getting into. I know what I want to get out of it, and so when people are complaining about things, I'm just like, I never really intended to get that in the first place. So, it's all perspective. It's all expectations, and understanding what a publisher is and what a publisher isn't.
I'm happy you're writing this out, because like I could honestly see these really easily being adapted to some really fun forms of other media. P1 Nokia and Jack in the Nav System, I could see both animated, being wonderful animated shorts or shorts, you know what I mean? And maybe like, it'd be cool to like kind of get a animated series out of it. I mean, like that would be rad. You know what I mean? Even if it was just YouTubers that did it, you know what I mean? Like, because they're doing wonderful stuff on there these days. So
I appreciate that. I would love to see it, like any creator. I think it gets a little dangerous when you put your head in the clouds, you know, and you start having those dreams.
Oh,
I'm planning one step ahead.
I was just flattering you, man, telling you that, like, if you ride this out, the potential's there, man. I could see these be very fun animated.
I definitely appreciate that. It's got that weird Star Wars vibe to it, in that Star Wars is like, it's for kids, you know, it's a fun thing. Adults can enjoy it, but it's primarily like got wizards with these laser swords and they're fighting. But you have to remember, in the very first Star Wars, they blew up a planet and killed billions of people. So it can still be like dark and twisted in its own lighthearted way. And that's the tone that I take to Grimspace. When people say, is this a series for kids? I'm like, yeah, it's a series for kids. It's fun. But you know what? In Pinocchio, the bad guy gets burned alive, you know, so it can get a little gnarly from time to time.
And Beanstalk 1 too, when they close the door.
Oh yeah, they chop off dudes' arms. Like it gets a little violent, but
I mean, it's not gratuitous or over the top. I mean,
it's classy. That's what.
Yeah.
Hey, I remember seeing Lord of the Rings: Return of the King in theaters and people cheering when, like, they decapitated the dragon, man. So I mean, like, yeah, it depends on the violence, and like, yeah, but people will cheer for some decapitations and some mutilations, man.
It's all about how you present it, you know. So I want kids to enjoy this book, like my kids and my nieces and nephews and all the other kids. I mean, that's kind of where it's at, is when you're at a comic convention. My first titles were pretty adult oriented. So when I saw a family walking towards me and they had some kids and I had nothing on my table for them, it was a little discouraging to be like, I got nothing for you, keep moving. But being able to offer something to them that they could vibe with is awesome. It's cool. So I don't want to give that up.
And speaking of conventions, convention season is in full force, full swing now. Do you have any conventions lined up that you're going to be going to that you want to plug?
I'm trying to keep it local. I might attend New York Comic Con as just like a fan, walk around, say hi to friends and stuff. But here in New York, there's a local county convention that's in June 29th and 30th. It's called Undiscovered Realm Con. That I'm gonna have some fun with that. You know what I found? When you start doing local cons and you do a lot of them, you start seeing the same people over and over again. But I haven't. 2020 was the last time I did a convention, and then something happened and there weren't any conventions anymore. So
for a while.
Yeah, so getting back out there and showing people what I've been doing in the interim is going to be cool.
Yeah, nice. Cool.
Yeah. Since you like Star Wars, is there, like, we got a character, like, it'd be really rad if you might be able to put him into your book. We got Baby Dolce. He's a member of the cast of the show, and like, yeah,
he's not a big Star Wars fan, so we put him on Grogu, his face on Grogu, and
I love the green hue nails it. You know, that's some expert photoshopping skills.
Yeah. It was funny. We put that up on the screen. He just threw his fucking pad with all his notes, and he didn't. He went a good 40 minutes without saying a word.
Yeah, he was.
Why would you be mad at that? It's beautiful.
Oh, he's I don't know what happened with Star Wars and him.
A droid killed his pet when he was a kid or something, man. R2-D2 ran over his dog. Like,
yeah. Grogu's a weird character, you know. I would love to see him like grown up and a badass.
Yes, yeah,
Mandalorian season 4, there should be a time jump, man.
Yeah,
but it's weird because at what rate does he grow? It's like it could be 50 years in the future and he's still like this little baby, because Yoda was what, like 800 years old or something.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird. I'm sure they'll figure it out. They got smart guys behind it.
But do you think that's? I just had like I made a comment today. If they actually want, because that's like they sell so much Grogu merchandise, and like, you know, the show. They don't want to. They want to keep it. You know, they want to keep that golden goose. You know, no pun intended for your books, but you know, I don't know.
They're gonna have to give him a gun at some point, man.
You know what? I don't want to think about it. I'm just enjoying what they've been putting out. The Bad Batch wrapped up. I think it was last week or something.
Mm.
That was a lot of fun. I'm not big. I'm not really critical in Star Wars. I didn't like the sequels. They weren't my vibe. But a lot of the stuff they've been putting out on Disney Plus has been fun.
Yeah.
Even the little stuff like Star Wars Visions it's just cool.
I still need to I still need to watch that. That's one I is every episode's its own story with different style of animation and stuff.
Yeah, they don't tie into
Nice.
one another. They're all separate, and even the ones that miss, you appreciate the effort, you know, because they're doing something different. They're kind of pushing the bounds of what Star Wars is, and
Nice.
I feel that vibe with Grimspace a lot. So they're trying to combine Star Wars with other cultures. So to see them do that, to take Indian culture and Indian as in Asian culture and do something with it, Japanese or Chinese culture, it's kind of cool. So I do that same thing with Grimspace. You know, I'm taking these standard stories that people are familiar with and I'm putting them in a sci-fi culture. So it's fun to
Cool.
the act itself, the exercise of doing it is what I appreciate.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that because there's this another series that Johnny and I like is what the Robot Love and what is it?
Love, Death, Robots.
Yeah, we love that series.
That's a great series.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that. I thought that Star Wars that's where I was disappointed. I was telling Johnny like the What If, you know, that the Disney put out. I was hoping it was I was hoping it was going to be kind of that idea where the stories weren't as connected. They were going to try different art, like animation styles and stuff. And it was pretty much the same. And the stories were a little too connected. And I was like, it's just another regular Disney, like a Marvel series, right? I was hoping for, you know, to be a little more experimental with like animation styles and give some people like a shot at trying something different, a new look, a new vibe. But anyway.
I like What If, but I'm not crazy about that art style. I do agree with Joe. It'd be nice if they kind of switched it up.
I feel the MCU, at least at this point in time, is very rigid. You know, they want things to fit within their MCU box, and if it doesn't do that, like Star Wars Visions is such a non-canonical kind of concept. They're just having fun with the wide expansive universe that is Star Wars. The MCU really doesn't do that right now. I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. kind of did that because it kind of had to. It was like bad it didn't work in the beginning, so it spun off and did its own thing. But I feel like they have a real stranglehold on the kind of stories that they're willing to tell in that universe.
Yeah. But who knows? Maybe one day we'll get maybe they'll do another season of What If and really go for the different, like, what if Punisher got the Venom suit? What if, you know, and really, you know, dig into it like that. Like,
they would need to separate it from the MCU. Just have a straight Marvel show. That's what.
Yeah. That's what I wanted. That's what I was hoping for, and that's not what I got. I mean, it wasn't horrible. It was just more of the same old, like, multiverse. Everything's connected, and I was like, you already have that with all the movies, and the shows are tied into the movies more or less now too, where they're setting up the stage for the feature, right? Like with what's the one, Thunderbolts or whatever it's called.
Oh yeah, Thunderbolts.
Yeah, so they set that up with characters from their shows, and they're going to do the feature after, right? So, which is fine. Like, I mean, but
I'm a huge Thunderbolts fan. So,
who's going to be on the roster?
So we have
U.S. Agent, right?
We have Red Guardian,
Mm-hmm.
the new Black Widow. We have Ghost from Ant-Man and Wasp.
Okay.
Bucky, Winter Soldier is going to be in it. Who else?
Is Baron Zemo going to be there?
I don't think so. But
Man, that sucks.
John Walker is U.S. Agent.
Yeah, U.S. Agent. Yeah.
What's her name? Elaine from Seinfeld is kind of.
Okay, yeah.
She's their Nick Fury.
Yeah.
Who else? Did I nail them all? There's talk that the Sentry is going to be the bad guy. I don't follow movie news. I try to stay away from it.
No, yeah.
I don't even watch trailers when trailers come out because
that means they're actually going to bring in Squadron Supreme then. If Sentry's going to be the bad guy, that could be cool.
It could be cool.
Hyperion too. I mean, I don't know. That lineup of Thunderbolts doesn't sound very interesting to me at all. Yeah, dude. Like they actually made Baron Zemo cool in that last season of Falcon and the Snowman with the Gun, whatever that was called.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
I got so pumped when I saw him with the mask, and I felt like they fell short of his full potential in that series. I mean, I get it. It's his name is not one of the two characters in the title, but I loved him in Civil War. I would love to see him in Thunderbolts too. I don't know what they're going to do.
It's Thunderbolts. Baron Zemo led the Thunderbolts until Norman Osborn led the Thunderbolts, and then
I loved a lot of the Thunderbolt stuff, but the newer stuff I'm just kind of not into. So I mean, I'm gonna watch it.
Was the one that Danny Way wrote with the Punisher and Agent Venom and Elektra in it. That one was stupid, but it was funny and it was fun.
It wasn't really Thunderbolts. It was like they called it Thunderbolts because Thunderbolt Ross put this team together, and he's Thunderbolt Ross, so we called it the Thunderbolts. It was kind of weird, but. You know who else is going to be in it? Taskmaster from Black Widow movie.
Okay.
A lot of people were critical of that choice. I dug it. I thought it was okay.
I like the actress. I like Olga Kurylenko. I just don't know why they made her mute and like did the other stuff that they did to the character. It's like the Taskmaster is like a badass villain, and it could have like she's a good actress and she's a good action actress. So I don't know like why they were like let's Ryan Reynolds Wolverine.
X-Men Origins.
Yeah.
I hope they redeem her a little bit in this one. They tried to pigeonhole her into the plot that they already made to make it make sense. That was the kind of decision that they made. But I don't know how the Sentry, if he is in it, how he's going to be used. But he's definitely on my bucket list of characters that I would love to play around with. So writing a Sentry kind of feature film would be a dream come true. So, but cross my fingers they don't screw it up.
You want to do him when he was crazy, right? Because that's when he was the most fun.
I imagine a Sentry movie being like Fight Club if Tyler Durden was Superman. That's kind of how I imagine it.
So you want to do the Sentry story that I'm interested in seeing.
Yeah, like, I wouldn't want to do an MCU story. I would make it R. You know, it'd have to Sentry. Robert Reynolds, the character, he's dark and he's not a happy dude. You know, so. He's a mentally ill drug addict, and I don't think people lean into that enough. And MCU is definitely not going to do that. So
no, look what they did to Moon Knight. I mean, I had fun with the Moon Knight show, but like, man, did that apple fall far from the tree, in my opinion. Actually, when it ended, I was actually interested in watching the show, like at the very end of it. But like,
it took a while to make you come along.
Yeah,
that was in the early days of Disney Plus's MCU shows, so. People were still kind of like, I don't know how.
I'm still that way with their shows. Like, What If is kind of like the best one that they've done. I liked Falcon and the Snowman, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I liked
yeah, that one wasn't bad. I like that.
I like She-Hulk. Those are like I think the only ones I actually like.
I enjoyed, I would say all of them for the most part. I mean. They definitely
Secret Invasion, man.
Secret Invasion. It didn't. You know what it was? Secret Invasion was so far detached from the comic that it was just. It was
so detached from the movie. Different. Why did they have to do that with the characters? And I mean, they didn't even follow up with it. If you watch the Marvels, like Sam Jackson's back to being like, man, I love this cat. You know what I mean? It's not like, yo, they killed Talos and like all these people in a brutal way, and like. Now there's a girl with the rock arm running around somewhere, but like he did like in the Marvels, it's like none of this stuff. It made Secret Invasion seem like it had no weight at all because the next time you see Sam Jackson's Nick Fury and everybody, they're like, haha, them damn Skrulls. You know?
That's the problem with the MCU becoming so big, right? All of these big, massive events are happening and they're not really referencing them. I see every once in a while people bring up the Eternals and the fact that there's a giant robot sticking out of the planet that nobody's even brought up.
Yeah.
So it's definitely a problem, but you kind of have to let some crap slide.
Yeah.
Well, that's the problem that I find with them trying to force everything to like tie into each other. That's the reason why the comic books are like, it was fun for a while with the movies. So that way you would like, had to keep up, but now it's to a point where there's so many of them. I think they should start kind of detaching some of them away from them, so that way, like the reason why people love Daredevil and the Moon Knight comics so much is because they're detached from most of the big event crap and stuff like that. And I think that they need to have their movies and shows like that too.
Something that I find funny in comics all the time is that whenever a big thing happens in like a solo book, like a Spider-Man book or a Daredevil book, they're like, how come so-and-so didn't get involved? Well, the Avengers are off planet doing a mission. They have to come up with some excuse why they can't get help to solve this big thing. Yeah. And now that's what the MCU has become. Like, if Iron Man is on an adventure, why aren't you going to call like a Norse god to come help you? Well, because he's like, the Rainbow Road is broken and he can't get here. They always have to come up with some plot device.
Oh yeah, or like when the Atlanteans were invading Wakanda, like how come nobody helped?
Wasn't Wakanda part of the world now? Like,
yeah, and I mean, like they knew that they were dealing with the tragedy, and like everyone was just like, sorry about you, like sad about T'Challa, but like, yeah, you fight them fish people on your own. That guy.
Well, that's because they all had PTSD from the snap, right? So they're all dealing with that shit.
Yeah, you can't be a super duper geek about it. You just kind of enjoy the ride.
I still have fun with most of the movies, to tell you the truth. It's just the shows that I have a problem with. That I think that they don't have enough faith. Like Echo could have been really good.
Echo was weird. Like I enjoyed watching it because I mean I got to see Kingpin
go back. Yeah.
So I mean I got to see her continue her story from Hawkeye. But like other than that, the plot didn't really do it for me. You know what I thought fell off the most was I was a huge fan of the season 1 of Loki, and then season 2 I thought was a mess. I didn't think that they had a cohesive plot at all. They really didn't know what they were. Character-wise, they didn't know what they were doing. I thought there were plot holes galore in it, and it was hard to buy what they were selling, because it was way out there, weird, zany science fiction stuff. And they kept it kind of cohesive in the first one, but in the second season, it just didn't make any sense.
I couldn't make it to the first one, and I got bummed out when I was watching the trailer for Deadpool and I saw it tied in with Loki. I was like, no, I was excited for this movie. Like,
I don't watch trailers anymore, so I'm like Frank. Like, what was it, about a year and a half ago, Johnny? I stopped watching trailers or anything. Well, now that the streaming all have commercials for the cheaper ones, I'm forced to watch them now. But so I do catch a few here and there. But for the most part, I don't watch them. Yeah.
My kids make fun of me because when we go see movies, and I'm a captive audience, and they have trailers for a movie that I know I want to see, but I don't want to be spoiled for me. I'll like close my eyes and cover my ears and like, no, you have to watch it, Father. And I'm like, oh, leave me alone.
Yeah,
because I feel like it doesn't go for MCU. It's for anything nowadays. You watch a minute and a half trailer and you're like, okay, I don't need to watch it now. I know how it plays out. It's got all the good parts and
because they show you a lot of the cool stuff to try to get you to come buy that ticket, right?
But I'm sold already. You don't got to sell me. I'm in. So once I know I'm gonna see something, I don't need to be teased. Like I just want the full experience.
But I think it's because it's that old mentality of before social media, right? Where you'd go into a theater and the only time you really got to see it is when you bought that ticket. So you'd see it once and then you'd have to relive it in your head. You couldn't just go and click and rewatch it 50 times in a row, right? So in that way it did its job. And you remember these, and then you're anxious to kind of see a bigger picture of it. But now there's so many leaks, so many, like you said, plot points leaked or scenes, and it just kind of ruins it now.
The last trailer I saw that really hooked me, that I went home and I was like, I have to watch this again and again, was Cloverfield. It came out in the first Transformers movie, and it had no title. They had this... It had a weird trailer. It was a party. It was a handycam thing. And next thing you know, the Statue of Liberty is being thrown through the street. And then it just cuts and it shows a date. And you were like, what the hell was this?
Yes.
People were saying like it's going to be Voltron. It's a new Godzilla movie. Nobody knew what it was. And they managed to keep it all under wraps.
Yeah.
So I was sold at that point. And every little drip of information about the movie, I was so into.
Yeah. It's so hard to do that now with social media, though.
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
people have to analyze every single little thing. It's
Yeah, they'll
like
go
they
frame by frame watching these trailers. Like just recently with the Superman picture.
yeah,
Oh my god! I was like,
everybody's got theories and ideas and
yeah,
opinions. I'm like,
yeah. I was like, oh my god.
how do you make a 2-hour podcast about a still image? Like, I just don't get it. But they managed to pull it off.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I saw so many like just breaking down the image and circling all kinds of things and theories, and I was like, man,
Don't you
some
have
people.
something better to do?
Yeah, I was gonna. That's what I was just about to say. Some people have a lot of time on their
I
hands.
am excited to see the trailer for that, just to see what the Authority look like. I am really excited to see the
Yeah.
Authority in live action,
And I'm anxious to see the suit in better lighting, to see if it's
Oh,
brighter or darker. Like I'm anxious to see if it's because the lighting's dim in the room, so I can't really go off the color of the suit in that shot because
oh,
it's
they
so
showed
dim.
what the suit looked like.
Yeah, he's sitting putting on his boots with some kind of weird spacey thing going on through the window in the background.
Yeah.
Huh.
I mean, it's a cool picture. I think I'm not a big Superman fan. I mean, as a
Yeah.
comic book fan, I like Superman, but I feel he's in a bit of an adaptation renaissance between Superman and Lois on the CW was phenomenal.
I like the costume on that, really. I thought the costume was great. It was super simple, but I think that's kind of Superman, though.
Yeah.
It's got to, like, because his suit should reflect the character, and he's an optimistic, a beacon of hope. So his suit should be a little brighter, a little lighter. Like it should reflect the character instead of these like You got Batman. He's the moody, dark, grim character. Superman's the beacon of light, the example, the role model, right? So like his suit should represent that as well. And that's what I want to see.
So Superman and Lois, and also My Adventures with Superman is the kind of the anime inspired Superman show. That's been good too. I don't know if they dropped the second season, but the first season was fun. It's a different take. The character's never been relatable to me, but those two shows depict him at different parts of his life. And I found it relatable. It saw him as a parent, and it saw him as like a kid, and
because
a young adult kind of.
Yeah, because the Lois one, they have teenage kid, right?
So it was very cool as a dad to see him, this super guy, struggle with like everyday parent stuff. It was just like, it was a great show. I enjoyed it. I think it was probably the best thing that the CW has put out superhero wise.
Yeah.
And that says a lot because the first seasons of Flash and Arrow were awesome. But yeah, those two shows. And if James Gunn manages to pull off a great Superman movie, they've done the trifecta.
I'm anxious to see what he does with the DCU. See if it's a tall order. I mean, he's going to get criticized for sure because you can't make everyone happy. So
he got criticized when he was announced. It's like there was nothing but his name, and he was already taking junk from it. So
well, I just think that it's a Herculean task that I don't think I'm not sure it's going to be. I think the time frame's all wrong. I think like 5 years earlier, like it would have stood a chance. I think with the atmosphere towards superhero movies right now, it's beyond a Herculean task to make this a $2 billion movie like they want it to be.
You're probably right, but the flip side to that is they're never not going to make Batman and Superman movies. They're never going to stop. I don't think there's ever going to be a point where they say this iconic pulp culture character is going to just vanish. They want to capitalize them. So even if they make a super low budget movie and then just put it out there just to sell tickets.
I think that's the main thing. They're going to have to adjust their expectations budget wise and ticket sales, because look at, what was it? The super critically acclaimed The Fall Guy. Second weekend, I think it grossed 12 million domestically. Like it was a major drop off. And that movie, how much, I don't remember what the budget was, but it was like a super bloated budget.
The trailer looks like it was astronomical, the money that they spent for those action scenes. You know what I thought when I watched that trailer, or at least I saw clips of it? I thought that looks awesome. I can't wait to watch it in my living room. So that's the problem that they're running into now. It's that I have a family of 5. Everybody wants to see it. And if I go to the movie theaters, I'm dropping $150.
Yeah.
I already pay $10 or whatever for Max. I might as well just sit back and
And now with like TVs and sound systems, you get a good experience at home
Well,
now.
and
So.
you only got to wait like 2 months until it hits video on demand rental.
Some cases a month.
Yeah, I mean, like that new Guy Ritchie movie. I think that only, and I rented it last night. Man, it's magnificent. If you haven't seen the Ministry for Ungentlemanly Warfare, I highly recommend checking it out. It's straight up.
What is it on?
You got to rent it. It's video
You
on.
got to rent it.
Yeah, it's $20, but like, yeah, it's worth it, man. Like if you like movies like The Dirty Dozen or Guns of the Navarone, it's straight up like that. It's kind of like what you thought Inglourious Bastards was going to be, like just dead on though. It's not like some half-ass art film. It's just straight up a badass like 70s 60s style World War II kind of comedy, not too much though. Like heist war film. It's really good.
To go back to James Gunn, he definitely had that vibe for the Suicide Squad, which I loved.
It was fun.
I was laughing the whole time with that movie. I thought it was great.
See that's what I want to see more of. I don't really care about seeing James Gunn do Superman. Like I really want to see him actually do The Authority when like
that's his vibe. You know, Peacemaker was hilarious. That was a phenomenal show.
Yeah, I want to see him do stuff where people's spines get ripped out and stuff like that, man. I don't want to see him. I mean, I'm pretty sure he's going to make a fine Superman film. Like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be, maybe the best one since Part 2. But like,
his Guardians of the Galaxy movies had a lot of heart to them, and I think he can take that heart and put it in a Superman movie. He's definitely capable of it.
Yeah, so. I know he could make it. I'm just not really excited. I would like to do other things better, personally.
What else do they have? They got a bunch of shows coming too, like Howling Commandos and stuff like that.
Yeah, the monster.
Yeah. So that's
Creature Commandos. Yeah.
So
they got the Penguin show, but that's not really tied into his DCU.
No. That's another weird one. I mean, Colin Farrell was good, but I didn't watch the movie and think this guy needs another 6 episodes to round out his character.
I mean, we already had one weird ass Penguin show. Like, I don't care. Like, Gotham was pretty much like until they made it the little baby Bruce Wayne show. It was the Penguin show. So
pretty much,
I kind of enjoyed that kid's Penguin. You know what I mean? It's kind of like
During COVID is when I binge watched all of Gotham because I didn't watch it when it aired.
Yeah,
and. You know what I felt it was? It was like if they took the Nolan universe of super realistic and decided to give it the tone of the Adam West Batman show. And that's when I forget. It was one of the early episodes, and there was something weird with like a hot air balloon going up. And I'm like, this is ridiculous and stupid. I love it.
Yeah.
But they played it so serious and close to the chest that it was fun for a while.
You know what? If they would have got what's his name, who played Commissioner Gordon, if he would have committed and grew a mustache, man, I would love that actor till the end of his days. If he would have been if he would have been like, no, it's Commissioner Gordon, I'm doing the mustache. Yeah. I would have mad respect for him till the day he's no longer on this earth.
You know what was a big hit and miss I felt was Gotham Knights. That kind of the first episode had Bruce Wayne die. So it's just basically like these kids running around trying to proclaim their innocence. I don't know if anybody watched it but me.
I remember the trailer that actually came out. I thought that they just ordered the pilot and then let it die. Like a lot.
No, they had a bunch of episodes. You know what? I enjoyed it for what it was, but it wasn't really. It never found its footing as like.
That reminded me of a weird show. That reminded me of the type of thing they would have put out like when Smallville was around. Like before, like they'd actually make shows about superheroes. It kind of reminded me of that era where they were like, "Yeah, this is like a legacy show for that superhero." That
like Birds of Prey.
Yeah, like Birds of Prey, exactly.
Yeah, it didn't. It didn't work. They didn't lean too heavily into the mythos. They needed more of that. They kind of tried to do their own thing, which didn't work.
Speaking of leaning into stuff, just remind people that we're talking to Frank Martin.
Yeah, man, we got off on a tangent.
He has his Kickstarter on going on
I could talk about superheroes all day long
for Grim Space. Just a little reminder, that you have a Kickstarter running. There's just a little over 2 weeks left. It's close to funding. You're on the the back end of it now. So just the link is in the descriptions and it's also in the chat. So go hit that. Go back. A fun book. It's Grim Space. It's Grim Fairy Tales with a sci-fi spin. Like Frank had mentioned before, he's got a whole lineup. If you go on the Kickstarter, he's got it all figured out. He's got the timeline with the different titles and what stories he's going to be tackling. So that'll be running for what, the next year and a half about.
Yeah. So all next year I'll have 6 new releases,
Mm-hmm.
and then depending on the reception, if people like it, if they're successful in Kickstarter, I want to do more because I enjoy it, but depending on how people respond, it depends on how much more I'll do.
Yeah. Do you have any other projects you're going to be mixing in there, or are you just going to be focusing on the Grim Space books?
So I do 6 launches a year. Right now, the Golden Flying Thingie is my 3rd of the year. So I have 3 more this year that are not Grim Space related.
Okay.
The next one is actually the Pinocchio artist Ramiro did the art for, which I'm really looking forward to. It's a bizarre book. It's a fourth wall breaking meta rom-com is what I would call it. So basically it's about a comic character who's aware that he's a comic character and he has a dialogue with his creator, and and he gets caught up in a love story that his creator kind of makes for him. So it's going to, and you know what, Ramiro, I chose him because he has this weird way of having static images come to life. So if I wanted this character to actually be alive and talk to you, he was the one I felt could pull it off well. So
cool.
It's all finished. I've had a bunch of people read it. They love it. So
nice.
That should be launching in July.
In July. Okay. So your next Kickstarter will be in July, and it'll be
it's called The Fourth Wallflower.
Fourth Wallflower. Okay. Cool. Cool. Like the artist. So he was the one who did Pinocchio. Loved his work. So that should be a fun book to check out. Nice.
What else do I have going on? I have another horror book that I'm looking forward to, but then I'm also putting out like an all ages book about farts. That's going to be that's going to be a blast. It's kind of
no what pun it intended.
So what happened? It's based on my family. So what happened? My youngest is 6 years old. He farted once and it kind of got stuck in his pull up, and then he dropped and it exploded out of it, the pull up, and he called it his fart bomb. And I, for some reason, decided to make an entire comic about that. So you got to have fun with this stuff. Otherwise, what's the point?
Nice. So you have this issue, then 3 more after that are unrelated to the Grim Space. So
and then back into Grim Space.
Back into Grim Space for 2025. Nice. Cool. So it's nice that you have it all figured out. So that Grim Space total, how many issues will that be right up until the end of?
So so we got 6 and then 7, 8, 9. That will be 10 launches through 2026. However, this is a 60-page book. It's being kickstarted as a graphic novel, but when Scout brings it to the direct market, they're going to break them up into 3 separate issues.
Okay.
So a lot of the campaigns are going to be like double-sized issue that then will be broken up. So even though I have 10 launches, as far as direct market going to comic shops is concerned, it's going to be a lot more than that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
So this is being published though in the near future as well.
Yes. If for whatever reason people don't like signing up on Kickstarter, it will be coming to your local comic shop.
So you must had to have write it with that in mind, knowing that once it goes to the direct market, there will be like breaks in the story. So you kind of had to, I
wrote them as 3 separate issues.
3 separate issues. Okay.
But there's no to be continued at the end of the last page. So it does seamlessly transition from one issue to the next, which is you kind of need.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, pacing is everything, man, no matter what you're working in my opinion.
It's definitely a big one. And comics is weird because I write a lot of prose, and prose is basically you take as much space as you need. I call writing comics resource management. You know, you have X amount of pages, you have Y amount of panels per page, and you got to fit it all in. So pacing is definitely up there as one of the most important skill sets when writing comics.
Cool. So, man, that actually sounds pretty fun. The romantic, what was it called? The flower.
The fourth wallflower.
Fourth wall. That's your next one, right? In July.
That's in July, and yeah, you know what? It's a weird sell. It's a great book. I felt like if you love comics and you read it, you're gonna have fun with it. But to put it up on Kickstarter and to get people to give you money for it, it's like, how do I pitch this weird, bizarre fourth wall breaking thing? It doesn't really fit into a specific category. So
as a kid, I was a fan of like Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Great movie.
Cool World. So like having people interact with like creations was something that I loved as a kid. So when I see it like in books too, and now I'm always interested in seeing how it's tackled in a comic, right? Because in a movie you get the live action with the animated. It's clear the difference between the two worlds. So I'm really curious to see how he's going to tackle the real world, like what's supposed to be the real world and what's supposed to be like the comic character, and how he's going to tackle it. That's something that always fascinates me in comics. So that's something I'm really curious to see once it's on page.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I had a cool time coming up with all the different little aspects of comic books that he can toy around with, and he'll be aware of that other characters aren't. Like, to give you a little concept, when he meets her, the book is in black and white for a large portion of it, and then becomes color. So he says he loves her eyes if he knew what color they were. So I have little things like that he's self-aware of what's going on in the book and able to reference it, and other people might not know what he's talking about.
You guys gonna want to come back on when that launches? That sounds like a fun one to kind of talk about, maybe with Romero. You think?
Sure, I'll hit you guys up.
Nice. And you said the one after that's going to be a horror book?
So in 2020, I kickstarted a book that was called The Macabre Motel. It's kind of my bizarre horror Twilight Zone-y story about a guy who goes to a motel and he meets all these weird characters who won't let him leave. It's not really scary as much it is like obscure, creepy.
Okay.
And everybody, when I put it out, asked me, are you going to make another one? And I kept telling them, no, it's a one shot. This is it. But I never say never. And then I got hit with an idea for a follow-up. So there's going to be a basically another standalone follow-up that takes place in the same universe.
And for your campaign, you have catch-up tiers as well for, let's say, your Grimm's Face will have catch-up tiers. So let's say people haven't read the Pinocchio or the first part. When they back the books, they could get the back issues of that.
So the answer is yes. You don't need to. So I design each project so that you could just pick it up, read it. You don't need any prior knowledge about the series. However, I do have them available as both digital. I have a digital bundle. That's the kind of just get all the digital comics, you read them. And then I have physical copies too that are available. So they're there. If you want to read something of me, it's kind of my obligation to make sure you can find it.
Yeah, that's it. So like, because like when I read it, I thought it was a lot of fun, and it's, and seeing how you tackled it, like we said, the references to like Star Wars, aliens, and all this stuff. So it builds that anticipation for the next one. Like, what are you in store for? So I think it's really worth it for people, not just to back this one. If you haven't backed your previous two issues in this series, it's definitely worth going to hit up those two issues as well.
It's not just cool references though, too. Frank does a really good job of adapting the fairy tales into the sci-fi really well. Like we pointed out earlier, the way he does the giant in Jack and the Beanstalk story was particularly. That's when I realized that, like, okay, I see what he's cooking with here, man. And
I had a lot of fun with the Giants catchphrase, fee fi fo fum. It sounds like an alien talking, so I that's what he says during the chase scene. So it was cool to play around with like stuff like that.
And I like that they're in the Beanstalk.
The Beanstalk is the name of their ship.
Yeah.
So the Beanstalk crew, which is Mom, Jack, Stilts, and Zeke, they're kind of my core characters, Even though some stories they won't appear in it at all, they are going to be the ones that kind of carry us through the series as a whole, you know. So I'm going to keep coming back to them to do a lot of the stories.
Which issues do you have planned that are like through the Beanstalk? Like Pinocchio was its own thing that wasn't directly tied to the Beanstalk. Like how many of those stories are going to be directly tied to the Beanstalk crew, and how many of the books are going to be like their own little one-shot type?
That's a good question. So Three Little Pigs is going to be the Beanstalk crew. It's specifically Zeke, because he's the big bad wolf character.
Okay.
I'm actually introducing my version of Grim Space Sherlock Holmes in that issue.
Okay.
So that's going to be a lot of fun. Cinderella, they don't appear.
Okay.
And I don't think they really come back fully into the fold until the Wizard of Oz one at the end, which is my Avengers crossover kind of issue. But they might have cameos where they might just appear in a scene or two in a specific book. So, but yeah, Three Little Pigs and the Wizard of Oz one at the end is.
You should sneak like Will Eisner, like in a cryo sleep somewhere or something like that, or Walt Disney, like all
that
legends,
would be very funny.
Cryo sleeping like on a ship somewhere, you know, all these legends.
I'll just have what was it? I forget Futurama when they had the frozen head of Richard Nixon.
Yeah.
I'll just have Disney's head just somewhere. Who is that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, he's just an old guy who wanted his head frozen for some weird reason.
Yeah, it'd be kind of funny. Yeah, there's so much stuff you can do with it, right? Science fiction, anything goes.
You know what? I think they did that with Batman Beyond. Didn't they do that with Mr. Freeze? He survived and he was just a head or something.
Just a head?
Yeah, just a head, and they put him on a new body, and like he ended up getting frozen again. It was a sad episode. Yeah, bringing that up.
Yeah.
Batman Beyond went hard, yo. Like.
So that's cool. So you said the Cinderella, it will be its own thing, like Pinocchio will be like a standalone.
Is she gonna be Barbarella-ish or what?
It's so the premise is the character, the Sherlock Holmes character that's going to be introduced in the Three Little Pigs, she's going to be the main character of. I dropped she. She's going to be kind of the protagonist of the Cinderella story. Okay. So a lot of times I'll introduce another character and then carry them over so that they could have their own spotlight. The basic premise of that one is the glass slipper gets lost and she gets brought in. Sherlock Holmes character gets brought in to try to find out who it belongs to.
Okay.
So
that's fun.
Yeah, fun. Like people have seen Cinderella, so how can I do this different? Well, let's have a famous detective come in and try to crack the case. So, and I didn't want to just stick with kind of Grimm's fairy tales or European-centric books. So I'm doing a Monkey King story, and I'm also doing an Anansi story, the African trickster spider god. So
cool.
So I'm trying to spread it out a little bit.
Nice. So once again, 2 weeks left on the Kickstarter. It's well worth your time. Go back this book. You have 3 other books that are outside of the Grimm space coming up for the rest of the year as well. 2 comedies and a horror book.
Yeah, I guess that's accurate.
Yeah. So you get to see you flex your genre muscles, right?
Like I said, I have writer ADD. I'm all over the place. And then you don't do 20 plus Kickstarters without having a big back catalog. So there are a whole bunch of stuff is available as add-ons too. So.
As add-ons, yeah. Nice. So man, I don't have very many more questions. Do you have anything else you'd like to touch on, Johnny?
No, I think I got everything out. Do you got anything else you'd like to plug, Frank?
No, right now, Grim Space, the Golden Flying Thingie is kind of my world and my universe, and getting it funded is right above keeping my kids alive. So that's my priority for the next 2.5 weeks.
Do you have any newsletters, anything that people can go check out?
So my website is franktherewriter.com. Also happens to be my handle on all the socials. From there, you can stalk me, check out what I have, and sign up for my mailing list. So that's kind of the best way to keep up with what I'm doing. And I'm always busy, so there's always something coming.
I thought of a question.
Oh.
That's the question that brought us to know each other. Frank, did you end up watching Fallout? And if so, what did you think, man?
I have not watched Fallout, not yet.
Oh.
I've heard it's good though.
Yeah.
Are you a video game guy? Do you play video games? Or
I
used
play a
to?
lot of video games.
Yeah.
I played Fallout 3 and I played New Vegas. I haven't
Okay.
played
Then you'll
4.
you'll love the show then. Yeah.
I you know what? I have like video game adaptation PTSD from years of getting excited and being
Yeah.
utterly disappointed. But I've heard that this is good. So
I think they've finally turned the corner. They figured it out, because Johnny and I were talking about like Arcane, excellent, loved it. I don't know how closely it ties to the game, but that was fantastic. Have you watched Arcane?
no,
Oh,
I didn't
dude.
play. I haven't played it. It's an animated show, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's based on
Excellent.
League of Legends, so I don't think it's very much like the game.
no,
Yeah.
I haven't played the game either, but the show was fantastic. But that's loosely based off a video game. You have The Last of Us, now Fallout. What was some other ones, John?
I really liked Super Mario Brothers. I thought
Yeah,
they
it was
did a
actually
phenomenal job with that one
yes.
too.
That was one
I
I was gonna
agree.
say.
Castlevania for Netflix. They
What's
adapted
the
the game.
Five Nights at Freddy's? I didn't care for the movie, but people say it's a really good adaptation.
kids loved
and
it.
good. Yeah, the kids
Yeah.
love it.
The
You know what?
target market loved it.
I got spoiled because Willy's Wonderland was like
Yeah,
a better Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes, definitely.
hard agree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no arguments here.
But you know what? My kids are into Five Nights at Freddy and they wanted
Yeah.
to watch it, so it was a good family horror.
And that cupcake was badass. If they would have just made that movie about that evil cupcake, I'd have watched that, man.
That's another one. They had a Cuphead show too.
Oh, what's that on?
It's on Netflix, right? I think it's
I forget what it's on, but that was they did a great job at that
Okay.
adapting it.
Yeah.
Cuphead show. Let's see.
It's
It's on Netflix. Yep.
on Netflix. Oh, I'll have to check that. I think I remember seeing that, but so much stuff comes out, it doesn't come up in your suggestions anymore, you know? So
I didn't know they did a cartoon, but like it makes sense because like that's what it's
Yeah.
spun off of, right? I mean, it's off of the old Fleischer cartoons, right?
It's definitely kid oriented, but I think as an adult, if you played the game and you dug the characters, you'll be into an episode or two.
yeah.
All right, man. Yeah, good. That's how we met. Like you commented on our Fallout video, and that's how we got into contact. You were like, "Oh, I got to check the show out."
I still, you know what the problem is? There's too much to watch and not enough time.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah, I agree.
What am I working my way through now? You know what? I've never watched Star Trek, so I'm kind of binge watching Deep Space Nine.
Oh,
That's kind of my thing.
I used to watch that. I watched that one when it aired. It wasn't bad. It was pretty good.
Have you worked your way up to it, or is that where you're starting?
I watched Strange New Worlds, and then I did it backwards. Then I watched Discovery, which I'm watching now as it airs. And then I tried watching the original series, and I got like an episode or two in, and I'm like, this is not something I can binge. And then so I skipped ahead and chose Deep Space Nine at random and to try something different. And it's definitely 90s, but it's keeping me engaged. I like the characters, the storylines are good, so it's not something I feel did not age well.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's cool. I actually like Strange New Worlds a lot. Like I wasn't expecting to, but like the first season was pretty good, but that second season was excellent, man. Like I really dug it.
It was a lot of fun. It challenges your brain a little bit. It makes you think. So you know what I watched before watching Star Trek was The Orville, and that kind of was like, and people are like, it's good Star Trek that is not Star Trek. So it was like, if that's what these shows can be, then
that's the Seth MacFarlane show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really good.
I've never watched it. I've heard stuff, but I'm not the biggest Star Trek fan, so I never really gravitated towards that. But
takes them too long between seasons, man. Like that's the only problem with the show, in my opinion.
Yeah.
What, The Orville?
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to continue it. From what I heard is that it's like the way they film it, it takes too long, so they don't want to do it again. But you know what the problem was? When I first heard of that show, when I saw their marketing campaign, they basically marketed it as like a sitcom in space, which is not what it is.
Yeah, they tried to make you think that it was going to be like Galaxy Quest or something like that. Like
It
it was
was
just going to be a
not.
straight spoof show, and it's not. It's like
It's
it's
a serious science fiction show.
yeah. Some of the
That's
episodes are downright sad as fuck, dude.
so it was a marketing catastrophe, in my opinion.
Disappointed it was Shogun. Uh-oh.
I have not seen Shogun yet. My mother loves it and wants me to watch it. You know what the problem is? When it came out, I was already binge watching Blue Eyed Samurai, so I could only take like
yeah.
one. I could only take one kind of samurai show at a time, and Blue Eyed Samurai was.
Oh man, we're
It
still planning on doing an episode where we talk about that because me and Joe I just watched it very recently, and Joe watched it, and that
for season 2. I don't even know if they're making it, but it was.
To tell you the truth, like I kind of don't want to see it, but like at the same time, it would be neat. But like the idea of I don't want to spoil it for people, but like the setup for season 2, I'm not sure if I'm completely in love with it, but I did love the first season, like which is weird.
It's a different setting, but you have to.
It reminds me too much of Pocahontas, man. Like I don't
maybe, but you know what it is when somebody crafts as well of a narratively designed show as Blue Eyed Samurai. I just have to trust that they know what they're doing. You know, it was expertly written, and so if I feel like if they have the same team in place, it's in good hands.
Yeah. I think Netflix does a fantastic job with their animated series for the most part. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, Shogun. I finished that up last week, Johnny.
Yeah. I like it. I just kind of I thought it started off a lot stronger than it ended. I thought that it was cool. I thought it was very beautifully shot. It had my favorite actor in the world in it, and like I thought he was the best character in the show. So I don't know, like it performed for me, but like I can see what my dad's saying there a little bit with it being a slight disappointment, but he really hated the ending of it.
Openings are easier to nail than the end.
Yeah, it's an art to nail that landing. So few shows or movies actually manage to nail it well. So when a show does, it's a nice thing.
This one here, right here, Other Space, that was a pretty good Star Trek spoof. It was like I think Yahoo put it on a couple years ago, man. It had the girl that was in like all the AT&T commercials, and Dave Franco was in an episode. It was a really funny Star Trek spoof. If you can find it, I highly recommend checking it out.
If you can find it.
Like it was a show that Yahoo, I think, put it up as a streaming show, like when like the early days of like where they were putting shows up online.
I see that 2015.
But if you can find it, man, like check it out. It's a really funny show. Like I had a good time with it.
I'll check it out. 8 episodes.
Yeah. Yeah. You got anything else, Joe?
No, man. I don't know. We just started talking about shows, so I don't know.
I mean, like I don't know how long Frank's got tonight. Like, but
I think my wife wants me for something. I don't know.
Yeah. We usually try to keep it to about an hour, and then let the creator, like our guests, decide if they, everyone has lives, so it's understandable.
I would love to come back and geek out with you guys on another thing.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. Nice. Yeah.
Awesome. Maybe if we do the Blue Eyed Samurai.
Yeah.
Sure. Let me know.
Awesome. So Frank Martin, people, he has a Kickstarter running right now for his Grim Space book. This one's called The Golden Flying Thingie. Yes. Yeah. So it's the third book, or fourth, actually, if you count the free comic book base. So this is the fourth book in this series. So
fourth entry.
Is that book available as in the catch-up tiers as well?
So it's actually on the campaign page if you want to pull it up real quick.
Okay.
It's right above the rewards, I think, which was the last thing you were showing.
So it's the fourth book in this series of so far you have 10 planned.
Yeah, so what I did for Steamboat Willie was I basically just adapted the standard plot of the cartoon and just put it in sci-fi. So Spaceship Willie. If you go onto the campaign page and you click that image, it will pull the comic right up, which you can do if you want it.
Okay.
So
it's free for everybody.
Yeah.
Cool.
You want to click it?
All black and white?
Yep, it's all black and white.
Nice. Have to,
Yeah.
right?
Have to.
Have to.
It would be blasphemous to put it.
Yeah,
in color.
exactly. All right, man. So thanks for coming on the show. It was a blast talking to you. And let Johnny do his thing, man.
Yeah, we're gonna be back on Thursday. We're gonna be Richard Morgan's gonna be with us, so it's gonna be an earlier show again. We're gonna be talking about his collected version of Bam and Glam, and he's gonna go further into detail than he ever has before with the book. We're actually gonna talk to him about like themes and tones and stuff like that. So it should be pretty cool. So yeah, you guys got anything you want to talk to Richard about? Yeah, Thursday afternoon. See you guys then. Take it easy, y'all.